We're learning the Sikha on Chanukah in Chelek on page 207. The shir today is being learned. L'ilui nishmas Rav Yosef ben Yamin ben Rav Menashe Koltman. Tanu Rabbanon. We learned in a Braise. This is in the Gemara in Shabbos in the Sugya of Chanukah, where the Gemara brings a Braise that tells us what the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles is. Mitzvah's Chanukah. Neir ishu beisai. So the basic mitzvah of lighting Chanukah candles is to light one candle every night of Chanukah for the person and his household. V'hamahadrin, and those that are meticulous in mitzvahs or want to add more to the mitzvah, neir l'chol echad ve'echad. So the mitzvah would be that everyone in the house lights one candle every night of Chanukah. V'hamahadrin, min hamahadrin, and those that want to even be adding more or more meticulous in the mitzvah, Beishama Yomrim, Meshami's opinion, the way to do this is Yom Rishon Madlik Shmeina. The first line of Chanukah, you light 8 candles. Mikam ve'elech, and then the days forward of Chanukah, Peiches v'hailech. You decrease in the number of candles that you light every night. Beis however say, Yom Rishon Madlik Achas. The first night of Chanukah we light 1 candle. Mikam ve'elech, from here going forward, Meisef v'hailech. Every day of Chanukah we increase in the number of candles that we light. Now, Pligi ba tre mirai, then the Gemara brings an argument between two Amirayim that explained the reasoning behind Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinions. Chad Omar, one explanation is, Taimid de Beis Shammai, the basis for Beis Shammai's opinion is, Keneged Yomim Anechnosen, that the number of candles that we light is based on the incoming days. So the first night, there are still 8 nights of Chanukah, 8 days of Chanukah, so we light 8. And then the 7th, on the second day of Chanukah, there's 7 incoming days, so we light 7. And so to the following days. The time the Beis Hillel keneged yomim hayotzim, and the basis for Beis Hillel's opinion is that we follow the outgoing days, and therefore the first night 1, the second night 2, and so on. Another opinion is time the Beis Shammai is keneged parei hachag. The basis for Beis Shammai's opinion is because he compares it to the bulls that were brought as a sacrifice during Sukkot that began on a high number and were decreased every day in their number of the bulls that were brought. Similar here, we decrease in the number of candles every night of Chanukah. The time of the Beis Hillel, and the reason for Beis Hillel's opinion, to add and to increase every night, the Mailim B'Kodesh, because one elevates and always goes up in holiness, and we do not go down, we don't minimize, and therefore every night you add another candle. Now, Pashta Saloshin, Pligi Botrei Amiroi, when you take the simple words that the Gemara uses to give these two explanations for Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinions, and it says pligi, that there's an argument how to explain their opinions, is mer neite, it seems to be indicating as the plukte from the zwei Amirayim, that the argument of the two Amirayim and the two reasons that they give is nitnar in the taimim from Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. They're not only arguing what are the reasons that their opinions are based on, but there's actually a relevance lahalacha, there's a practical difference between these two reasons that these Amirayim give. And that's why it uses the term pligi, because there's a real argument that's even to be applied practically. And as is talking in Kames Sfarim and Paiskim, and this is explained in Sfarim and in the Paiskim as the machlokes between the Rambam and Tosfos. The argument that there is between the Rambam and Tosfos regarding mahadrin min mahadrin, the ones that want to be extra meticulous in the fulfillment of the mitzvah, what is the explanation of that way of lighting the menorah? Tzi kedas ha-Tosfos, whether we would accept the opinion of Tosfos as mahadrin min mahadrin, is a haisofe nor if the minyan von neirish beisai. That this is adding to the first and basic way of lighting the menorah, which is when one person lights the menorah for the whole household. Ein ner for alle bnei bayis. Now, what's mahadrin min mahadrin? As mahadrin min mahadrin sinden die zweite Nacht Chanukah zwei Licht for alle bnei bayis. So the second night of Chanukah, if you're extra meticulous in the mitzvah, so you'll add, one person adds every night an additional candle for the days of Chanukah, according to Beis Hillel's opinion. Okay, but this is not that everybody in the household will be lighting and adding every night with the candles that they light. But the mahadrin and a mahadrin is only one person lighting and adding every night an additional candle. Oder, or kedas Rambam, whether we would accept the opinion of the Rambam as das is a hisofe oichayf v'hamahadrin ner l'chol echad ve'echad. The mahadrin min mahadrin is adding to what it said right before that the ones that are meticulous, everyone in the household lights the menorah, and then it says Mahadrin mina mahadrin, which means as mahadrin mina mahadrin neisuf of them was mizmadlik ner l'cholechot ve'echot. In addition to the hidur that each person in the house is lighting the menorah, is min meisuf v'hoylech ad peiches v'hoylech, you add every night or you decrease every night, and then mispar aneides fayedrin for the bnei bayis in the number of the candles, but it's for everybody in the house that's lighting. That's the Rambam's opinion, and this is basically the minig, that the custom that we follow. So what's the basis of these two opinions, the Tosfos or the Rambam, and how we understand Mahadrin min Mahadrin, which is where Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel argue about how to fulfill the Mahadrin min Mahadrin. So it says in Sfarim, is Tluya in the Tzvei Deis von the Amiroim Manal. This is based on the two opinions, the two reasons that the Amiroim say, explaining the opinions of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. According to the first opinion, as time with the Beis Shammai connected Yamim Anachnosim, the time with the Beis Hillel connected Yamim Hayotzim. If the basis of Beis Shammai's opinion is that we follow the outgoing days, Beis Shammai is the incoming days, and Beis Hillel is the outgoing days. Tzintben nit on fayedren for the Bnei Bayis Bazunder. So then we're not going to light for each person in the household separately a menorah. Nor blois ner ishu beisai. There's one person that's lighting, and he's lighting the number of the candles corresponding to that day. Why only one person? As Tosfos says, Kedei es l'zayna heker as the ribi arneiris is keneged hayomim. So like this, you have one menorah, so you can see very clearly what the number of candles being lit here in this home is, and it'll be clear which night of Chanukah it is. Nichnasen or the Yitzin. Whether we follow Beis Shammai's opinion that we go by the incoming days, or Beis Hillel's opinion that we go by the outgoing days. One shouldn't confuse the number of candles based on the number of the people in the home. When you see more than one candle and it's not clear exactly whether it's based on the day, whether it's based on the number of the people in the home. If the point is that the candles are corresponding to a certain number of the day, so then it makes sense to follow, as Tosfos explains this, that only one person will be lighting the menorah and adding every single day, according to Beis Hillel's opinion. But according to the other opinion, as time with the Beis Shammai connected Parei Chag, the time with the Beis Hillel, the Mailam HaKodesh Ve'Meridin, that the reason for Beis Shammai is corresponding to the bulls brought in Sukkos, and the reason of Beis Hillel is because we go up, we always elevate in holiness, and we don't go down. So then it's not required to have the recognition to see the candles that are lit, what number of the days of Chanukah it is. So according to this reason, so when it says that those that are extra meticulous in the mitzvah, it's adding to what it said before, that everybody in the household is lighting, and everybody in the household could add or decrease every night. It doesn't have to be something that it's clear how it corresponds to that day, as long as it's either decreasing like the bulls of Sukkos, or adding, as Beis Hillel says, Mailam B'Kodesh. So then we can learn like the Rambam that everybody is going to be adding in the Neiros Chanukah. This is the explanation that it says in Sfarim that points out a practical difference in the two explanations, the basis of Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai's opinion. However, we can say, as the nafkamina zwischen die zwei Taimim, that the practical relevance and the difference between the two reasons is nit nar wie man soll lernen dem din von Mahadrin min Mahadrin. It's not only regarding how we understand Mahadrin min Mahadrin kipirish Tosfos, whether we follow Tosfos' opinion or the Rambam. Even if we will follow our custom, the Ramah Paskin, as the Ramah says in Shulchan Aruch, v'chein haminik poshet. This is the custom that became accepted by all. As yedere from Bnei Habayis tzint on neris Chanukah is meisuf ha'holich. That everybody in the household lights the candles of Chanukah and adds every day another candle, following basically the opinion of the Rambam. Is the nafkamina and halacha l'maisa zwischen die zwei Taimim. We can still find the practical relevance, the difference that there is between the two reasons explaining Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinion. So what is that? So here the Rebbe will give and offer a certain nafkamina that there can be, and then along the way in the Sikha the Rebbe will explain a deeper pshat and understanding the difference between the two reasons, which will bring us to yet a different approach in understanding what's the practical difference between the two opinions. So now, first the following example. Wenn einer hat angezündet die zweite Nacht nur einer. If it happens that on the second night of Chanukah, for whatever reason, one only lit one candle on that night. Should have lit two, but he only lit one for whatever reason. So now, we can think about the following night, the third night. How many candles should we be lighting on the third night? Now, so if we're going to follow the reasoning as time with the Fishel connected the Fishil's reason is that we follow the outgoing days is Poshet. So then it's not a question. It's obvious as a daf anzünden drei Licht connected Yom Hayotzim. On the third night, he has to light. He has to light 3 candles corresponding to that night. Aber light dem zweiten Mandama as time with the Fishel the Meilam HaKodesh Ve'emeriden, that the basis of Fishil's opinion is that one should be going up in holiness and not down, is genug as a vet anzünden blois 2 Licht. So that on the third night, if the night before, for whatever reason, he lit only 1, it would be enough if he just lights 2. Because he's fulfilling this requirement of going up and not going down by lighting 1 additional to the night before. That's a practical difference between the two opinions in a case where a person lit 1 by mistake or for whatever reason the second night. Now, this practical difference between the two reasons is blois and afal from b'diavad. This is after the fact when someone did it wrong on the second night and he only lit 1. So we have here this difference. So the mitzvah was not fulfilled on the second night fully and perfectly. However, there's another example where here there's a practical difference. Even in a situation where the nights before he fulfilled the mitzvah perfectly in the most best possible way. And here the case is as follows. It comes the third night of Chanukah. The night before he lit 2 candles, but now on the third night of Chanukah he only has enough oil to light 2 candles. So how many candles should he light tonight? So now here we can say as follows. According to the first opinion, that the difference, the basis of the reason is whether we follow the incoming days or the outgoing days. So then it should come out. As it can the mitzvah keneged yamin hayotzin, since he anyways can't fulfill the mitzvah as Fishil's opinion following the outgoing days, is genug as al sinden ein licht. So it would be enough that he lights just 1 candle to mekayim zayin the ikara mitzvah, to fulfill the basic mitzvah neir ishu beisai, to light 1 candle for himself and the household. Because by adding another candle, which is 2 on the third night, that nitzukumen and hidra mitzvah. It's not going to add in beautifying the mitzvah in any way. He does not have candles corresponding to the number of the night that he's lighting the menorah. So there's no point in lighting 2 on the night of 3. So therefore you go back to the main mitzvah, which is to light 1. And in the Ha'ara, the Rebbe adds that it might also be an issue to light different than what the number of the night is tonight, because people will mistake what the day is. Okay, continuing now inside, but the other reason, according to the other opinion, but if you follow the reasoning of Fishel, that you add every night another candle because one has to go up in holiness and not down, so on the third night, even if he has only 2, he should light those 2. Even though by lighting 2 on the third night, he's not fulfilling the requirement of the Hiddur to be meticulous to the point of the Meilam B'Kodesh, that he's actually adding a 3rd candle tonight, is that Al Kapanim Mekayim Dem Ve'emeridin. But at least he can fulfill the second half of what the requirement here is, not to go down in the number of candles that he's lighting. He's not lighting less, which is 2 candles, less than what he lit the night before. So therefore, in such a case, he should light 2, according to this opinion. So here we have a practical difference, again, regarding a case where a person on the third night only has 2 candles. Should he light 2 or should he light 1? Okay, now this is all looking at it superficially, based on the way we understand these 2 reasons. But here, though, the Rebbe will explain on a much deeper level what's really the basis of the difference between these 2 explanations for Fishel and Beishamai's opinion. And based on this, the Rebbe comes out with a nafkamina, understanding the practical difference between the opinions in a completely different way. Looking at this on a deeper level, we can say as follows. As es ist da a chiluk zwischen die zwei man da omrim in dem Geder ha-shayches von Mahadrin min ha-Mahadrin zu mitzvahs ner Chanukah. The real difference here between the two opinions is this Mahadrin min ha-Mahadrin, this unique thing to be extra meticulous by adding to the ner Chanukah according to Fishel's opinion. How does that connect to the actual content of what the mitzvah itself is, lighting ner Chanukah? Now the chiluk bepashters zwischen sie is on a very simple level. The difference between the two reasons here are, according to the first opinion, the reason that's being given, whether the outgoing days or the incoming days, is connected to the content of the days of Chanukah that you're lighting the menorah with. Connected yamim anachnasim or the connected yamim hayotzim. But according to the second opinion, the reason being given, whether you go down in the number of candles or up, is connected to a side point that's compared or taken from somewhere else. Whether the bulls in Sukkot or in Haggis HaAdam BaKodesh, the way one should conduct himself in matters of holiness. But it's not something that's related to the content of this mitzvah of lighting ner Chanukah. So now, therefore, we can say as follows. Besigna nacher, to say this point there in a different way, Aleph, one way of understanding what the hiddur here of adding another candle every night is, das is adin in dem gavre, that this is really a halacha to add every night that stems from something that's required from the behavior of the person. The mit was is the fact that a person is adding every night another candle, or decreasing every night like Beshamai, kommt zu a hiddur and zayin, dem gavris keva mitzvah. What this adds here is, in the person's attitude or approach in the way he fulfills the mitzvah, it adds in his level of being meticulous in the mitzvah. However, the actual additional candles themselves, they are not being added because there's something about the content of these candles that are related now to something more in their Chanukah. As far as the content of Chanukah is concerned, you just need one candle. The adding or decreasing is related to something completely on the side, something outside. And therefore this is a hiddur that stems from the gavra, from the person that has to apply this hiddur to the candles that he lights. And therefore the candles themselves, if you just look at what they are for themselves, would be just a begeder shel reshus. They're just candles that are being lit. Beis, on the other hand, though, you can say, das is adin in the mitzvah gufa. The adding, the mahadrim and a mahadrin, is a halacha regarding the actual candles themselves. The neiris veren a chefze the mitzvah. The actual candles themselves become an object of a mitzvah. The mitzvah is ner Chanukah, of the mitzvah of ner Chanukah. Since this is a reason that's related to the actual mitzvah itself, so the actual neiris themselves become a chefze of a mitzvah. Mefarshim Zogin, now the commentaries here say about this, that in Afgemina lahalacha, zwischen die zwei, what would be a practical difference to explain between Aleph and Beis here, whether the hiddur is something that relates to the gavra, to the person fulfilling the mitzvah, or this is a hiddur and the actual chefza of the mitzvah, the object of the mitzvah, adding more is making this sort of a larger mitzvah, there's more candles that are part of the mitzvah. So a practical difference between these two approaches is as follows. Wenn man hat gebracht, die neiris hanisafim, noch im Benchen if nera Aleph. If a person is lighting Chanukah candles any night of Chanukah, and when he was lighting, he had just one candle to light, and he made a bracha and he lit. Then afterwards, they brought him additional candles corresponding to this night. So now the question is, can you separately now make a bracha on these additional candles that are the hiddur of the mitzvah for this night? It's known, achrayim that argue about this. So this will depend here on the two approaches, whether the additional candles all stems from the person expressing his hiddur in the mitzvah for a side reason. So then those additional candles are not in the same level of the chefza of the mitzvah, the object of the mitzvah, like the first candle that you make a bracha on. If you already made a bracha and now those additional candles are brought, you don't make a bracha again. But if the hiddur mitzvah is in the candles itself, that this enlarges the chefza of the mitzvah, that this is part of the mitzvah, the additional candles are like the first candle, so then you can make a bracha even on those additional candles themselves, after you already made a bracha on the first candle. Und das ist the chiluk zwischen die zwei mandomrim. This explains the difference between the two opinions, explaining the reasoning behind Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinions. According to the first opinion, as time of the Beishamai connected Yom Manachnosim, that the basis of Beishamai's opinion is that we follow the incoming days, and the time of the Beisil connected Yom Mayotzim, and Beisil's opinion is based on the outgoing days. Atam verbunden mit die Yemei Chanukah und mit Nes Chanukah. This is the reason based on the actual days of Chanukah itself, and also with the Nes of Chanukah. Which is what the mitzvah was instituted for. Right, so according to Fishel, each day you add an additional candle to express the added miracle that there was every night in the oil that lasted in the Menorah. So this is a reason that's connected to the actual content of what this Ner Chanukah is about. So then, those candles that you add every day are teil von Chanukah und mitzvahs Ner Chanukah. It's part of Chanukah, it's part of the object of the candles of for Chanukah. The Neides and the Neides mitzvah from Chanukah, they are part of being Neides mitzvah candles of Chanukah. Only this is echt bepashtus, and this is the way it is on a simple level, as durch der Hisafe, Beneides, by adding more candles every night, wird euch nisparsim, what is publicized is, wie jeder Tag is zugekommen in the Nessa Neides. That every night, it wasn't the same miracle as the night before. The fact that the oil is lasting yet another night and another night, so each day the miracle becomes only greater. And that's why every night, according to Fishel, you add another candle to publicize the miracle that extended and became greater and greater every night going along. So if this is the approach, then the actual Neidos themselves are adding and are serving a purpose here in expressing what the Neidos Chanukah are about. So they're part of the Ner mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, like the first candles. But by contrast, according to the second opinion, explaining the reasoning of Beishamai and Fishel, as time with the Beishamai connected Parei Chag, the time with the Fishel the Mailam HaKodesh V'Meridin. So bringing side reasons connected to the bulls and sukkahs, or connected to the general behavior in holiness. These are reasons that don't have a particular connection in its content to the days and the Nes and the miracle of Chanukah. So now, according to this, is there mahadrim and a mahadrim. So here, this hidur to add to the candles, blois a hisafe v'hidur in the ranhoge bechlal from the gavra. This is something that the person that does a mitzvah and really does any mitzvah should add in his involvement and in the fulfillment of the mitzvah. That he should see to it that when he does a mitzvah, that he should always add in his involvement and action in the mitzvah. Aber nicht in the chefza from the mitzvah. But the additional candles do not have that same level of being a ner mitzvah like the first candle that you light, which is the ner Chanukah. The additional candles lit are just expressing it stems from the person expressing his level of going up in holiness. Al pizeh, now based on this deeper understanding here, and the difference between the two approaches in explaining Beishamai and Fishel's opinions, Tumtak the Adgashe Barichas from Rashi, Bipirusha and the Sugya, we could understand better if we look into the words of Rashi, the way Rashi explains here this opinion, and the words that Rashi says. V'zel Shayna, this is the Rashi's words. Parei Achag. When the Gemara says Parei Achag, the bulls of Sukkot, so Rashi says Mismatim v'Holchem b'Karbonis, the Parshas Pinchas. These are the Karbonis that are decreasing in number every day, as we see it in the Karbonis, in the Chumash, in Parshas Pinchas. When the Gemara says that according to Fishel you go up and not down in holiness, so here Rashi brings the source Mikra Yalfinullah b'Menachos. It's learned from a pasuk in the Gemara in Menachos b'Perek Shtei Alechem. In Menachos in the Perek of Shtei Alechem. Now the Chayre is Nidglatik the Arichis b'Karbonis the Parshas Pinchas. Seemingly, why it's not smoothly understood here. Why does Rashi have to add and say that the karbonis of Sukkot are to be found where? By the karbonis that are recorded in the Torah and Parshas Pinchas. And also, what's the relevance here for Rashi to tell us as Mailam HaKodesh Chulu that the rule of going up in holiness is Aleph, learnt men up Mikra. It's also learned from a pasuk. Beis, the limud is b'Menachos b'Perek Shtei Alechem. And the place where the Gemara brings this is in Menachos and in the Perek of Shtei Alechem. Why is Rashi highlighting these details here? The Yeshleimar, based on what we said before, we can say Rashi is madgish. What Rashi is highlighting here is as loit and manda omar. According to this opinion, zenidi taimim from Beishamai or Fishel nit verbunden mit dem Prat von Chanukah v'Nes Chanukah. These are not reasons that relate particularly to the lights, the candles that we're lighting here for Chanukah or the miracle of Chanukah. Parei Chag, and therefore Rashi tells us the bulls of Sukkot that we're comparing it to, Mismatim v'Holchem b'Karbonis the Parshas Pinchas. This is something that's really an unrelated thing. It's by Karbonis, which is in Parshas Pinchas. Das hat nicht kein Shayches mit Chanukah. That makes the point that this is not a reason that's connected to the content of Chanukah. And the similar, Mailam HaKodesh Ve'im Meridin, Mikroi Alfinu Lo B'Menachos B'Perek Shtei Alechem. So Rashi highlights that from where we learned this out, that it's in a pasuk in Menachos and Perek Shtei Alechem, saying with this is Aleph, Alimud V'Hira B'Torah Sheb'Ksav. This is something that we learn from a pasuk in Chumash. V'Chanukah Kula Hi Medivrei Seifrim. And Chanukah is something that the Chachamim much later instituted. So this is not something a reason that could be related to the content of Chanukah itself. And Beis, V'lechem Lernet Areis B'Menachos B'Perek Shtei Alechem, Ahira Klolis B'Negei Inyanim V'Lechareten Zich B'Menachos Chulu Nita Shaychus Chanukah. It's in Masechta Menachos discussing the Menachos in the Beis HaMikdash or Karbonis in the Beis HaMikdash, not particularly related to the content of Ner Chanukah. So this is the explanation, the deeper understanding of the difference between these two reasons is the requirement of adding, according to Beis Hillel, adding additional candles, something which relates to the actual natives themselves, that they are actually publicizing the miracle even to a greater extent, and it's part of the cheftz of the mitzvah, part of the object of the mitzvah, like the first candle, or no. There's the first candle, which is the Ner Chanukah. The additional candles is a hiddur, is an extra addition in the mitzvah that the gavra, the person, is expressing in his fulfillment of the mitzvah in the most meticulous manner. Based on this deeper explanation here, in the plukte, in the argument, in the basis of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinions, is move on. Now it's understood as the zweite nafgeminish b'sif beis hanal. The second case that we mentioned before in Sif Beis, a practical difference between the two reasons, and that is when einod blois zwei nedes beleil shlishi de Chanukah, when one only has two candles available to light on the third night of Chanukah. Tzir soll zinden ein licht oder zwei licht. Zwei, that is, should he light one candle or two candles? So the way it was explained before is nit mukhrach. It's not necessarily true. So the way it was explained before is that if the reason for the Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel's opinion is based on Yomim HaNechnosim, Yomim HaYotzin, so if you only have two on the third night, there's no point in lighting two. It doesn't correspond to the number of the night, so you light one. But if the reason is Mailam HaKodesh Ve'in Meridin, so then even when you have two on the third night, light those two, even if you can't fulfill Mailam to add, but at least you won't go down from the number that you lit the night before. So now the Rebbe says, not necessarily is this the right approach, because now we have a new understanding of what's really the basis of these two reasons here. Even according to the opinion, as time of the Beis Hillel, Keneged Yomim HaYotzim, that the basis for Beis Hillel's opinion is based on the outgoing days, Zolat Sinden Belel Shlishi Tzvei Licht. We would still say that he should light on the third night two candles. If he doesn't have enough for three. Although he doesn't have the full amount of what's needed for the hiddur of the third night to light three candles, so as said before, so seemingly there's no point in lighting two on the third night if the point is that it should correspond to the number of the day. But nevertheless, Zolefun Deswegen Sindin, he should still light Al Kolpanim Keneged Tail from the Yomim HaYotzim, light two corresponding to part of the days, the outgoing days of Chanukah, Vibalt as the mit is a meisiv in the Metzema mitzvah. Because as we explained now, according to this reason, that Beis Hillel is giving us a reason to add every night, a reason that is based on the content of what Chanukah is, and the added miracle that there was every night. So even if you only have two on the third night, the more you can add, the more you're publicizing and adding to, showing and expressing the miracle that had happened on the additional days of Chanukah. So even two on the third night would be right to light two. The Neides Chanukah zene bei ihm mehr b'shleimus. The Neides Chanukah, by lighting two on this night and not one, would be more closer to perfection. Und zene befarstem nit nur the ikke nes Neides. And then by lighting two, you're publicizing not only the fact that there was a miracle, which is even just one candle, nor echt die heisafe in dem nes, legabe dem ersten Tag, but also the fact that it's the third night of Chanukah, and therefore you want to publicize that the miracle with the oil lasted another day, and therefore it's the extension and the greatness of the miracle. So there is a point of lighting two on the third night, which is related to the actual mitzvah itself by publicizing another aspect of the miracle of the mitzvah. So therefore this case is not necessarily a case that can be used as a practical difference between the two opinions, because according to both opinions you should light on the third night only two, if you have only two that is, so you should light those two. Or, so now based on what we're learning here, we can say, so we can give another practical difference between the two reasons. In a fall, wenn hat nicht genug Shemen afille zu tun der Hiddur from Friedigen Tag. In a case where a person does not even have enough oil to light the amount that he already lit the day before. Ledugme, for example, when Belel Shmini hat weniger wie 7 Neiris. When on the 8th night of Chanukah, someone has only enough oil to light less than 7, less than what he lit on the night before. So now how much should he light now on the 8th night? And here, the difference between the two opinions will actually be the opposite of the way we explained it earlier. And that's as follows. According to the first opinion, that Fishil's opinion is based on the outgoing days. Das is a Chelek from Gufa Mitzvah, the Neiris Chanukah. Each additional candle, the reason here it shows us how each additional candle is part of the actual object of the mitzvah and the content of the mitzvah of Chanukah. Dafür anzünden, wie viel hat. He should light as much as possible, as much as he has. Kedei zum Meister sein, wie viel kann in the mitzvah, the Ner Chanukah, kanal, in order to add and to publicize as much as possible more of the miracle that occurred and that was extended in the additional days. So even to light less than 7, to light 6 on the 8th day of Chanukah, if that's all the person has available, you should light those 6 to add, because each additional candle enlarges the actual object and content of the mitzvah. However, according to the second opinion, as time with the Fishel, that the basis for Fishil's opinion is the general halacha of the behavior of a person to go up in holiness and not down, was the neidish mesifin hobenit ken shayches zum etzem mitzvah the neidish Chanukah. So now, according to this, the additional candles are not really related to the mitzvah itself, like the first candle, which is to light Ner Chanukah. It's more about expressing the person, the gavra's added hiddur in the mitzvah. Is mistaver, so then it would be logical to say in such a case, as al unsinden blois neir ishu beisai the ikara mitzvah, that he should light only one candle, the candle that one person lights for the household, which is the main mitzvah. But lighting 6 on the 8th day of Chanukah, there's no point. He's going down in the mitzvah, so he's not going to fulfill the Mailam HaKodesh Ve'emeridin. So there's no point in adding in this case. So you go back to the basic mitzvah. Now, Oiber is Meisif al Ikra mitzvah. Now you would say, maybe let him add anyways. But if he would add though, and light more than 1, he would light 6 on the 8th night, that Ois kommen, then it would come out as that is Oiver Oive'emeridin. So then he's actually decreasing, because the night before he lit 7, and now he's lighting 6, going down. But you can't say that he's decreasing if on this night he's not lighting 6. He's not at all lighting in this framework of the way Chachamim instituted according to Fishel to add. He's just lighting 1, doing the basic mitzvah. So then, doing the basic mitzvah, he's not decreasing, he's going back to the basic mitzvah. So therefore, according to this opinion, you would have to light just 1 candle on this night. And again, that's in the case where on the 8th night of Chanukah, he only has 6 available, so you're going to have to go back to 1. That's a practical difference between the two opinions based on the deeper understanding that the Rebbe gave us here in these two opinions and explaining the opinions of Bishamai and Fishel.